What is going on, guys? It is yours truly, Nathan Valley, here with my man Ben. How you doing, Ben?
Dude, we do this for the last 3 weeks. I'm just always excited for these Thursdays to do these content, these little
I know.
podcasts or whatever you want to call them.
It's a fun time, man. And today, guys, what we're going to be chatting about is how to qualify leads, right? So specifically, guys, I've literally qualified thousands of leads, thousands of qualifying conversations, and I have done a lot the wrong way. So I've done all that so that you guys don't have to. And so that's what we're going to be going over today. But a little bit real quick before we get into that, just a little bit about myself. My name's Nathan Valley, been wholesaling for about 5-ish years. Done a whole lot of deals, a lot of different states. I'm known for locking up over 100 contracts in a single year. Some of you might have seen a 30-day challenge I did a while ago to where I picked a totally brand new market, no contacts, no resources, nothing. And I did a $20,000 deal in 30 days without spending any money on marketing. That's a little bit about me. Ben, who on earth who are you, brother?
Yeah, I think I'm the same person as I am last week. So my name is Ben. I run a company called BoldDeals.io. We're pretty much a marketing agency that runs Facebook as well as PPC for real estate wholesalers. We manage a little over $15 million in ad spend over the last 4 years, that is. So I started this business when I was 15, so I'm 19 now. So now we create content to document everything that I've learned and what we know works to share it with everybody else, so they don't go into the same mistakes that we made.
He's an ads genius, guys. When it comes to like ads for wholesalers, next level. Cool. So guys, let's jump into it. So we're talking about leads. How do we qualify leads, right? So we picked our market. We know what channel we're using to generate our leads. But then we get on the phone. Oh my gosh, what do I do next? So there's a couple things. So first off, some of you guys may have seen or heard about the 4 pillars to a qualified lead. And I'm going to kind of run through that with you guys right now because it is good to know. So the 4 pillars to a qualified lead, and I am not the person to originate this. I'm not sure who exactly is the person. I don't know if it was Brent Daniels or
I think it was
someone else.
I feel like it was Brent.
Well, the 4 pillars to a qualified lead is timeline, condition, motivation, price. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on each one. First one being timeline, right? So when we are qualifying a lead, we want to know what is that seller's timeline, right? Are they looking to sell in, this week, this month, in the next 30 days? Are they looking to sell 2 years from now, 5 years from now? What kind of timeline is this person looking to sell in? Not just looking to sell in, but is there a timeline that they need to sell in, right? And again, guys, when we're talking wholesaling, we work with motivated sellers, right? Motivated sellers with distress situations. Timeline is a really strong indicator of distress sometimes, right? And with timeline, sometimes it's a timeline of their choice, or sometimes it is out of their control, like people that are in pre-foreclosure. There is a ticking clock in the background to, hey, you're going to be losing your home soon. You need to make something happen within this time frame. So timeline is really, 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 really important. That is probably one of my favorite, most important indicators on this initial list of 4, because you can kind of, you can kind of, fake a little bit the condition. You can kind of fake motivation a little bit when talking to somebody, and you can, not necessarily be completely transparent and honest about what price you'd really be willing to sell for. And timeline, I guess you can kind of do the same, but if usually timeline is the one to where it's the biggest indicator to where I'm most likely to get a real answer, from the seller. And that's, there are very few people that are, need to sell in 30 days. And these other 3, are totally fine, right? Like very rarely does someone need to sell in 30 days and they're not a motivated seller. So that's why timeline is so, so, so big. And again, don't feel like you need to like skate past that really quick if you didn't feel like you got a thorough answer. If hey, Mr. Seller, hey, did you guys have with selling the property, did you have an idea as to when you think you'd want to sell it? Sometime, sooner rather than later. Okay, great. When you say sooner rather than later, what do you mean? like in the next like 10 days or like within the next 30 to 45 days? Or are we talking like within the next like 1 or 2 years? Right? Really kind of nail that down. Put an actual number, a real metric to it. So that's timeline. I also, real quick, Ben, I'm curious from like the online marketing standpoint, for the people that are, with online marketing, right? So they're searching and they're filling out these forms. What kind of timeline do you typically see for people that are reaching out and saying, and hey, I'm actively looking into my options for how do I sell my home for cash and whatnot?
So a lot of our marketing comes from Google Ads, right? So the way Google Ads work, you have to understand, is that people are actively searching keywords, and then they're filling out a form, right? So when it comes to timeline, it can be as little as 14 days, and I've seen it really as high as 60 to 90 days, right? Obviously, we can go into the marketing and the data tracking later, but what we do with this information is we would consider we would find out the criteria for an MQL, or a marketing qualified lead, which we do it based off the 4 main pillars. Like, we want leads that are looking to sell in less than 45 days, are in a distressed condition, have one of the motivations: pre-foreclosure, divorces, tax delinquents, can't make more, whatever, right? And then asking price. One of my favorite qualifiers on inbound marketing is not only do we ask what their asking price is, but we ask if they're flexible on their asking price, right? Because what it does is it almost tees the acquisition manager up to know, like, okay, there might be room for negotiation here, rather than like, hey man, I know I'm firm, and then it's like 200% error, right? So that's typically what we notice when it comes to running inbound.
I love that. And it's really interesting. So for online leads, you talked about, man, some people it's as long as 60 to 90 days. Now, guys, this is important with knowing what marketing channels are you using. And the important thing is Ben is talking about, these are hot, motivated sellers that are inbound, right? So inbound traffic, they are reaching out to you. When I first got started, I had a lot of outbound marketing, right? So I'm reaching out, I'm texting, I'm cold calling a list, or whatever the case may be. And so for me, I'm coming across people that will give me answers sometimes of maybe in the next, year, 2 years, and that's if I even get that far in the conversation with them. So whereas when they're reaching out to you, right, if you send out a piece of direct mail and they call your postcard, right, or, it's pay-per-click or whatever the case may be, and they are typing into the internet, sell my house fast or sell my house for cash, and they fill out a form. Guys, when they are reaching out to you, it's not because they're thinking about doing this 2 years, a year or 2 years down the road. Also keep that in mind, because if you do get a call, right, or they fill out that form, and if they try to tell you that it's a year or 2 years out, no, like, guys, they reached out to you. There's something going on in the background to where they are seriously considering selling now. So that's timeline. Let's talk about condition. Condition motivation. It's there's kind of different perspectives or outlooks you can have on them. Condition is not necessarily needed, but it's usually, more often than not, it is part of the equation. The reason why I say that is, with the popularity of creative finance and those types of deals, a house can be in good condition, but there can be a different form of distress, right? So I like to think of it as situational. Right? Is it the situational distress with the condition of the property, or situational distress with the financial situation? There's a number of different ways, but more often than not, and again, when we think of wholesaling, we are looking for investment opportunities. We are looking for properties that we can add value to, but most importantly, situations that we can add value to. And again, condition, these are all just indicators of a qualified lead. That does not mean 100% because this box is checked, it is a qualified lead, right? Because condition, and this is kind of one of my issues with driving for dollars, and why, there's other kind of strategies that I like a little bit better. I can look at a house and be like, oh my gosh, like, whoo, I'm adding this one to the list, baby. Like, is that thing actually still standing? Like, how is that? Right? And someone might live in it. And guys, the reality is it could be almost a teardown. But if that person's cool with it and they don't care, right, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily motivated. So condition could, and now meanwhile, on the other end of the spectrum, house could be newly renovated, mint condition, and maybe a family's going through a difficult situation, or maybe there was something big that kind of happened in life and they need to make a shift very quickly, right? So condition is not always the best indicator, but the reason why is, if someone is retail, right, if their home is in perfect condition, well, okay, there's a ton of other people that could be the perfect buyer for this property. But if a house needs work done to it, right, if it's in a lot of disrepair or there's updates that can be done to it, okay, well, then there's a lot of options for us as investors. And typically, more often than not, we are the best client for them when a home is in disrepair or does need work done to it. Ben, any takes one way or another on that?
No, I completely agree with everything. Like, in my personal opinion and from our personal experience, getting property condition almost gives us room for the negotiation. It's like assisting with the negotiation on the price. So that's one big thing, right? To me, the most important thing are timeline, right? If they're looking to sell in 2 years, like, why are you talking today, right? So you can do a little bit of takeaway on the sales call there. Motivation, obviously, if they are not motivated to sell, it gives you not much leverage on the sales call or the offer call. And then the price. If the numbers don't make sense, then nothing else really matters.
Yeah, motivation. I'm going to kind of skip past this one pretty quick because I'm going to segue into disqualifying a lead, and that will help answer this question better. But motivation, we want to understand, why is this person selling, right? Well, why are we talking to them on the phone right now, right? Why do they want to sell in this timeline? Why is the condition of the house an issue for them or a problem, or why is that important, right? What is going on in this person's life to make them want to make this decision? Right now, you might think, oh, well, a lot of people buy and sell homes. Yes, but we want to know, but why now, Mr. Sell? Why now? Yeah, I understand, but why are we talking now? I'm sure you've gotten calls from a million people.
Why not wait until after Christmas, right? Because we know that Christmas is coming up, and that's a possible objection. So if you get in front of them, they'll probably give you a reason. But it can also bite you in the foot, because now they're gonna be like, if they're not motivated, they're gonna be like, you know what? I will wait after Christmas. And now
yeah. And the thing with motivation, guys, what I will say at this point, before I get into the disqualifying part, which is going to be the most important part you guys want to listen to in this video, with motivation, we do not want to ask, hey, Mr. Ms. Seller, what is your motivation for selling?
Don't do that. Please don't
guys,
do that.
It is too direct of a question, and it's very obvious as to what you are looking for, what you're trying to do. And if you do ask that question, right? And guys, I'm not judging, right? I was just getting started once too. I've done it. I've been there, right? Again, this is just from all the lessons I've learned after thousands of conversations. With motivation, when we say, hey, Mr. Seller, what is your motivation for selling? Guys, like they're like, I see what you're trying to do here, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know you want to know, why am I desperate, and why are you going to be able to get, a big,
like, how are you going to take advantage? It's like the seller's like, hey, this guy's trying to get ammo, so take advantage. Like, please don't do that. Like,
exactly.
Anything but that.
100%. So guys, don't do that. I'll tell you what to do in just a second. And price, I actually, if it were up to me, I would almost take this one completely off. The reason why is I think price is the least important when it comes to qualifying a lead. You might say, well, Nate, that is absolutely crazy, because the whole point of what we do is we find properties at a discounted price. Isn't that kind of important? Guys, the thing is price is the easiest one to fake, but the biggest thing to change. I cannot time and time again, I've had conversations with sellers to where in the very beginning, right, first 5 minutes, hey, Mr. Seller, if you were to sell the property, did you have an idea as to what kind of price you'd want to sell it for? We want $1 million, right? Or whatever that huge number is. Okay, got it. No problem. Now let's talk a little bit more about this, right? That first number, it's never a real number, right? 9 times out of 10, it is not a real number. They don't know you, like you, or trust you yet.
Right.
And they still have their guard up. So that number, it's just a smoke screen.
Yeah.
So whatever that number is, I honestly has zero, and I mean zero impact on, how qualified I think a lead is.
Here's something that, Nathan, that I see some beginner wholesalers do that is somewhat frustrating, right? They will hop on their first call, and their lead manager will ask them a price. They'll cross-check it with like Zillow, or if they have access to the MLS, they'll cross-check it there. And if it's like higher than usual, they'll just disqualify it right then and there, right? They don't even make an effort to see if they're willing to negotiate, and they'll just like DQ or disqualify the lead. They'll put like FDQ or financially disqualified right then and there, and you just threw out a lead and when you have no report, right? So my opinion is like, who are you on a 5, maybe even 10-minute call to ask them how much they want for the biggest asset they have with the client, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have some rapport, figure out the problems, and then try and dive into pricing.
Yeah, I love that. And that exactly what you're saying is kind of what leads into disqualifying the lead. So the 4 pillars of disqualifying a lead, this is just, again, after thousands of conversations, this is kind of what I put together, what I have found to be the most effective way by far to qualifying any kind of opportunity, right? When it comes to talking with a seller. So let's take a look at what that is. And the funny thing is you're able to accomplish the 4 pillars by disqualifying the lead and more. And it's just kind of, in my opinion, a better way of doing it. Right. And again, gotta pay got to give credit where credit is due. Dude, the 4 pillars is amazing. And I've just kind of, this is something that I've found does it a little bit better. So let's talk about why I think that. So again, when we're talking to a lead, we're trying to uncover, most importantly, hey, what's their real motivation, right? Why do they really want to sell? And then also, what's the real price they're willing to take? What's the absolute lowest price someone is willing to take? Is this somebody that I should even be talking to? Well, let's start with asking some of the obvious questions. So the 4 pillars to disqualifying a lead, and yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. We are trying to disqualify this person. So in my conversation, I'll ask, hey, Mr. Seller, tell me a little bit about the house. Okay. Yeah, the house, it's got, this many beds, this many baths. And I might stop and say, hey, Mr. Seller, can I ask you something? Why not just list it with an agent and go that route?
Yep. I love that.
We don't want to because of X, Y, and Z.
Typically, and I want to interject there, Nathan,
please.
What you're doing here is really beautiful. And the reason why I say that is it's almost, in sales, we refer to it as a take, right? You're taking away from something as opposed to being pushy, etc. And what most of the time happens if you ask the seller, hey, seller, like, what's preventing you from wanting to list it with a realtor or an agent, right? They'll be like, oh, I don't want to deal with commissions, closing costs, and other dumb fees. What do you mean? Yeah. And you ask them to probe and dig deeper, they'll be like, yeah, I don't want to give away like 6% or whatever to realtors or agents. Exactly. And what you can do with that is at the end of the call, which or whenever you make your offer during the negotiation process, you can use that to your advantage to get a bit of a deeper discount. That is something that I've seen my clients do that have been super powerful when it comes to locking up properties at deeper discounts.
Yeah. And at the same time, what you're doing, guys, is you want to ask the question no matter what, right? Because this is the obvious option, right? This is the obvious other option that they have available to them, right? Hey, Mr. Seller, why not just list it with an agent, right? I'm pushing you in a different direction. Why not do this? Well, we don't want to because of this. But Nate, what if they say, well, we're thinking about it. Again, we don't want to just know the yes, no answer. We want to know what's the why underneath. Well, we've thought about listing it with an agent. Okay, well, what's held you back from just moving forward with that? Well, because of blank, right? Hey, have you guys thought about listing with an agent? Oh no, we don't want to do that. Okay, interesting.
Why not?
Why not? Why is that important to you? Right? And guys, what you'll notice, same thing for each one of these questions. So I'm going to ask first, hey, why not just list it with an agent? Step number 2. Okay, right. And I'll ask a little bit more about the condition. I'm not asking these one right after the other. I'm not going boom, 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 right? Because it would just be
like a
weird.
script. Yeah.
This is a normal conversation that we're having, right? I'm asking, hey, why not list it with an agent? They tell me. And then we go back. Okay, got it. Now tell me a little bit more. What's the kitchen like? Okay, how are the cabinets? This, that. Hey, let me ask. Have you guys thought about maybe just kind of, doing a little bit of work, fixing it up yourself and then selling it? I mean, you'll get more money if you do that. Well, we don't want to do that.
Why not?
Okay, unpack that for me. Why not just do that? Right? And then question number 3, then back to the property. Okay, got it. Now tell me a little bit. How's the roof? How's the electrical? How's the plumbing? Okay, this, that, the other thing. Okay, very nice. Hey, have you guys considered maybe and now this question's the easiest one to ask. When you ask, hey, have you guys considered maybe just renting it? Oh, God, no, we don't want to deal with tenants. And we did that one time and it was a nightmare and blah, 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 blah. Guys, like almost nobody wants to rent, right? Like nobody, this is never a real option. But what are we doing here? We're listing all the other options that they have. So what we're doing is, hey, why not do this? Why not do? And again, you're doing it in a way that it comes across as to where it is, you're asking questions that appear as if it is against your best interest and in their best interest. Excuse me. So what does that do? Well, it allows you to come across very genuine, not salesy. It makes it look as if you actually care about what's best for them, but you're also uncovering all of this really important information, right? Without asking hey, what's your motivation for selling? Well, I'm going to know exactly why after I ask these questions, right? Like nobody wants to answer that question. Hey, what's your motivation for selling? Hey, that's none of your business. Right? That's a response some of you have probably gotten. I know I have, right? And I've gotten much more colorful responses than that. But when you go about it this way, you're going to get the same, you're going to find out the same answer that you're looking for, but at a much deeper level, right? And by doing it in a way that frankly doesn't piss off that person, right? Doesn't come across rude, doesn't come across as selfish. And what you're doing is when you present all the other options at the end of this, you are the only one that's left. And so what you're doing consciously and subconsciously is when the person tells you why all of these other options are not able to work for them, they by default have already answered why you are the best fit for them. I don't have to sell that hard when somebody already tells me why I'm the perfect fit for them. Right. And then, right. So we talked about listing with an agent. We talked about fixing it up yourself. We talked about renting it out. And then last but not least, now this question, sometimes this might already be answered in the conversation, depending on how much they tell you and what you've talked about. So you got to use a little bit more, a little bit of emotional intelligence. But last question, like, hey, Mr. Miller, have you guys considered maybe just staying in the property? Or I don't know if you've got kids to kind of pass it down to, is that an option? Right? We want to ask all of these disqualifying things because you might say, well, Nate, what if I ask, hey, what if I ask them, why aren't they listing it with an agent? And they said, well, we're considering it. And I say, okay, well, what's moving you back from just moving forward with that option? Well, what if they say, oh, well, we are thinking of listing it with an agent. We're actually meeting with one on Friday and we're planning to list it for $400,000. Well, then my next question would be, okay, well, can I ask, what would hold you guys back? That sounds like a great option. What would keep you from just moving forward with that? Well, you called us. You said you pay all cash and no closing.
Another
100% stuff. If you can pay $400,000 cash and we don't have to do that, sure. Like I'll listen to you and we'll go this route.
Another beautiful thing you can do is you can literally ask them, oh, by the way, with your realtor or with your agent, how much in fees are you going to be paying them? And then that opens another, and now they probably didn't think about it. There's the split with the realtor, the percentage, there's closing fees. all of that. So you can even bring that up because sometimes homeowners, they don't know that, surprisingly. Yeah, so that's something you can do in addition to that.
Yeah, I love that. And again, this is gonna, when I'd say timeline and condition is kind of like the two things that we're asking about, right? Hey, if you were to sell the property, what kind of timeline would you want to do it in? Right. And then
How
we're
soon?
asking them about the condition of the property. And then while we're asking about condition, we're sprinkling in these 4 questions.
Yep.
And as we're asking about condition, we're sprinkling in these 4 questions, and these 4 questions will give us the answer to these 2 things.
Yep.
Again, guys, if listing it with an agent is not an option, if fixing it up themselves is not an option, if renting it out is not an option, and if staying in the property is not an option, guys, you are all that is left, right? So you now know whatever they might have said they want $1 million for the house. But if I know for a fact on what the answers they give me to these questions, I know I'm talking to like I'm the only person that can help them. I know they want this price, but I am the only person that can help them. I don't know if it's going to be today, tomorrow, next week, next month, or 3 months from now. But when they do sell their house, it is going to be through someone like me. And someone like me is only going to be able to do this down here. And again, I don't know if it's going to be today, tomorrow, next week, next month, but at some point they are going to say yes to this price because none of the other options work. Right. And so that's how you know you have a qualified lead. And again, price can change so drastically. Because again, guys, when you're asking these 4 questions, right? And again, you're not just getting a yes or no answer, but you're going one level deeper. You're getting the why behind it. Guys, these are really personal conversations, right? But doing it in a way that isn't kind of weird and not overly direct or aggressive. And what you do is that seller gets to know you. They get to like you and they get to trust you. And that all does what? It builds rapport. And once we have built rapport and that person trusts us, now we can have a real conversation. Hey, Mr. Seller, look, I know kind of everything we talked about. I know you'd mentioned you can't list it with an agent because of this. Fixing it up yourself isn't an option. I mean, I know renting it out definitely isn't an option. And you guys, you're already out of the property or you can't stay in it, whatever. Look, at the beginning of this conversation, I know you said you wanted $1 million for the house. I guess my question is, I mean, realistically, where do you really need to be at? Guys, you will get massive drops in price. And again, we're now at a point to where we can ask this question, right? Because we have the rapport with the seller. So again, and this is just qualifying, right? This isn't even necessarily closing. And guys, is anything that difficult, right? Like if I were to sum these 4 questions up in the simplest way possible, it is be a human being, right? Just be a human being on the phone, guys. Just be genuine. And I say this like a broken record. When you are talking to a seller, an agent, a wholesale, whoever, guys, the number 1 golden rule, and I got to give credit to Alex Ramosi. This is who I got this from. The number 1 golden rule is genuinely care more about the other person's outcome than they do.
Yep.
And when we are asking these questions, it demonstrates that. And when you genuinely care about more about the other person's outcome than they do, guys,
you ultimately win that deal.
Yeah, it gets a whole lot easier. And this is where you guys hear all the time where people talk about, yeah, they had multiple offers and they were higher than but they wanted to work with me. Yes, price is important. But guys, when that seller or that person wants to do business with you, you can make a lot of other mistakes along the way. When somebody really trusts you and wants to do business with you, the business gets a whole lot easier. And also, let's talk about one of the scariest things, right? Everyone's so afraid to talk to a seller and do this, do that. Guys, is it scary when you're just, hey, man, I'm just making calls to try to help people out? Like, it's not about me. It's not about getting deals. It's not about making money. Now, that might happen. But if I just enter with the frame of I'm just genuinely here to care more about this other person, and I'm going to do it through asking these genuine questions in a genuine conversation, guys, it's not rocket science. It's not too difficult. So don't take my word for it, guys. Try it out this week. right? And if it doesn't work, then I will probably say you might have done something wrong, because it works. I do it day in and day out every day. So guys, I hope this is helpful for you. Ben, anything at all you got?
No. Having qualified leads is the bloodline of your business, right? If you don't have qualified leads, what are you going to do? Talk to unqualified leads all day? Like, no.
People do that. Like, which is crazy.
Then they wonder why the business is not moving forward, right? So having qualified leads and knowing how to get a qualified lead, and more importantly, how to disqualify a lead, that way they don't clutter your CRM is crucial when it comes to scaling your business. Because if you don't have it, like, what are you gonna do?
Dude, 100%. I love that. And the one last thing I'll say, guys, is in this conversation, if you notice, I'm not saying, well, hey, Mr. Seller, well, you said it's got this wrong with it, and this wrong with it, and this wrong with it. Yeah, that's going to cost this much money. That's going to cost this much money. If you notice, I didn't say, oh, Mr. Seller, well, there's this comp right around the corner. There's this house.
Yeah, that's really going to piss
$10. Guys, I'm not a fan of that.
They don't care about that. More importantly, the sellers don't care about it. They care about themselves.
And all it does is it breaks rapport, and it gets them upset with you. And again, whether you can do the price they want or not, they're just not interested in doing business with you at that point.
100%.
So it doesn't need to be that way. Again, if it's not somebody I can help, then I just say, hey, I'm probably not the right buyer for you. I think this might be a better option. Happy to connect you with them. Right. And that never really happens. Right. But guys, you'll talk with a lot of people to where we are not the right fit for them, or it might not be the right time. And the funny thing is, you don't get cursed out, you don't get hung up on, and you actually end the conversation on a good note. And the funny thing is, either, hey, I wasn't the right fit for this person, and I helped them kind of one step in the direction that they want to go. Or if they are the right person, when they get to that point of realization, you didn't ruin the relationship, and they're going to want to work with you when they are ready. So guys, I hope this was helpful. I hope you get a lot out of it. I hope it helps you qualify some leads and get some deals. If you guys want to learn a little bit more about kind of what we do and how we help wholesalers getting started and closing deals consistently, you can just go to painlessflipping.com. There should be a link in the description below. That's a little bit about us. Ben, if people want to learn more about what you do and they're already closing deals and they're looking to scale to like 10 plus deals a month and all that crazy stuff, how do people learn more about that?
The easiest way is to follow my Instagram. Shoot me a message on Instagram. I personally manage my Instagram. I don't have some VA running it. Not that that's a bad thing, but I manage it. I respond to all messages. If you're struggling with something, you're not happy with your current marketing guy, shoot me a message at official Benjamin. Last name is HOANGN, and I'll be the first one that pops up.
Love it. Well, guys, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. Go disqualify some leads, and we'll see you soon. Take care, guys.